Back when I was in high school, I saw this video by Steven Vlog, where he explains how to play the card game 1000 Blank White Cards. It's a super fun party game where you and your friends make the deck that you play with. I highly recommend it. I brought the idea to my after-school club, and it was a huge hit. When I was in college and could only play games remotely with my friends, I came up with my own version of the game. What if, instead of collecting point cards, you had a health bar and played cards to deal damage to the opponents? Thus, Arsenal was born. Firstly, the cards for this game were made using the Magic Set Editor program, MSE. As a result, they all have the appearance of Magic the Gathering cards, but while this is the case, they do not function like them. Arsenal cards have the following properties: name, image, description, type, subtype, and source. Name, image, and description are all self-explanatory. A card's source is the media that card is a reference to. Almost all cards are references to games or series that are important to me and or my friends. It's very much meant to be a celebration of all of the different games that we love. Sources also serve as a way for some cards to have interactions with each other. Types. There are 5 card types, each one represented by one of the colors of Magic in MSE. Red cards are attacks. They exist to deal damage to other players and sometimes have secondary effects. The majority of the deck is attacks. Blue cards are abilities. They generally activate some kind of one-time effect. White cards are buffs. They have passive, beneficial, ongoing effects. Black cards are the opposite. Debuffs. They have passive, harmful, ongoing effects. Last but certainly not least are green cards, which are interrupts. Interrupts break the rules of the game. As long as you meet the condition at the top of the card, interrupts can be played without spending actions, and even sometimes on turns other than your own. All 5 types have their own sets of subtypes, but you don't really need to know them by heart. Subtypes just exist as another attribute that card effects can sometimes interact with. Stats. There are only 2 stats that players need to track while playing Arsenal. First is HP, which is pretty self-explanatory. You start with 50, if you reach 0, you die. Last player standing wins. The second stat is called Tempo. Every attack, aka every red card, deals damage equal to its base damage plus your tempo stat, unless otherwise specified. So if I play Fireball with 5 tempo, it deals 11 damage total. You start with 0 tempo and can potentially gain some from card effects, but the majority of your tempo will come from the fact that after every round, that is, after all players have taken a turn, all players gain 1 tempo. The fact that tempo increases your damage output and constantly rises is meant to reflect a closing circle in Battle Royale games. Eventually, damage output will get so ridiculous that the game can't be stalled any longer. Gameplay. At the start of the game, all players draw 6 cards from a central deck. On your turn, you may use your 2 card actions as you see fit. One is an attack ability action, which lets you play a red or a blue card, and the other is a buff/debuff action, which lets you play a white or a black card. So you could play the following combinations of cards on your turn: red-white, red-black, blue-white, or blue-black. You can also spend an action to discard a card. Remember that green cards are special and thus do not require card actions to play. After spending your actions and resolving any necessary ongoing card effects, you may end your turn. Unlike most card games, in Arsenal, you draw at the end of your turn. There's no consistent number of cards you draw. Instead, you draw until you're back up to the starting amount of 6. So if I'm at 2 cards in hand at the end of my turn, I would draw 4. But if I was at 5, I would only draw 1. After all players have taken a turn, this signifies the end of a round, and all players gain 1 tempo. Play then continues until there is only 1 player remaining. That's the basic gameplay loop. There's more details, of course, like how each player only has 3 buff slots and 3 debuff slots, and how we're currently testing a post-death zombie mechanic, but that's pretty much all you need to know. One final thing to remember is that much like 1000 Blank White Cards, the central deck is comprised of cards submitted by everyone. I'll be uploading videos of our play sessions, so if you want to watch that, check out the playlist in the description. And as such, I would love to hear if y'all have any card ideas. I think it would be cool to watch our central deck evolve and maybe see some of your own submitted cards pop up. You can submit card ideas either in the comments or in Discord, and I'm always happy to answer any questions you have about the game. And if you're a regular or a mutual interested in playing around, feel free to tell me that too. The deck isn't public, but if there's interest, I'll happily host the game. But that's all I have to say in this brief overview. Again, check out the playlist in the description to see us actually play the game. Feel free to submit card ideas, subscribe, you know the rest.